Okay, hello. I'm Joe Akins. I'm a nurse in Nashville, Tennessee, Davidson County. Pretty much the same thing. This is just about my thoughts on the RaDonda Vaught trial and conviction, and just some of my views on how I think the prosecution just completely mismanaged the case and misled the jury and just overlooked key evidence. So let me just start. This is and I'll kind of let you know. Most of this will be just me speaking. So if you're running or working out, you mostly can just listen. There's really one part that I really want people to see what I'm talking about, something that the prosecution conveniently overlooked or consciously disregarded I guess that's the term that they threw around during the trial. So I'll just use their words right back at them. I'm going to use a lot of their words right back at them. But you can probably listen and not really pay attention or sit and watch this. You may be fairly bored. Just there's not a lot of graphics or video or things blowing up or things like that. So you can probably just listen. And I apologize for my voice. Hopefully the volume's good. And I just want to start off. This is Becker's Hospital Review. This just came out Friday, May 6th. And it's just talking about, nurses make exit plans after the RaDonda Vaught's conviction. Now, how much you think that's going to affect, how many nurses are going to leave the profession nationally, locally here in Davidson County? Are travelers not going to want to come here? I don't know. There's other people who have done, podcasts on that and videos. But in looking through this, it just struck me. So this is Becker's Hospital Review. I think it's a paid subscription. I'm not sure. They have fantastic articles, but if you're not paid, I don't know. You may not have access to this. I also apologize if I upload this. I'm new at. I've never really done a video like this on YouTube or any kind of video. I've taught on Zoom, but I don't know if the resolution will allow you to read. So basically, it's an article, Nurses Make Exit Plans After RaDonda Vaught's Conviction by Mackenzie Bean, Eric Carbajal, and Kaylee Gleason, published Friday, May 6, 2022, Becker's Hospital Review. And then it just, talks about that, talks about the background. But there's this one, see, I don't know what I'm doing. You can't do that. All right, there we go. All right, so there's this one little quote in here which kind of struck me as part of the problem. So this is from Latrina Walden, MSN, nurse practitioner based in Georgia. So she says, quote, "I understand that the majority of nurses don't want to see RaDonda prosecuted. Neither did I, but we take an oath to not cause harm. I hope I never took an oath to not cause harm. I don't understand why anyone would take an oath to not cause harm. It's not about cause. You can cause harm doing all kinds of things in basically on a daily basis. Every time I go to work, I may potentially cause harm. Give a patient chemotherapy, you may cause harm. Extract the patient from a motor vehicle, you may cause harm. I mean, there's so many examples of causing harm. That's the wrong way to think about it. You're wrong. So let me be very clear. You are wrong in your thinking. Your thinking is inconsistent with reality. If you took an oath or you think you will not cause harm as a medical practitioner, whether you're a patient care technician, a nurse, a doctor, a respiratory therapist, it doesn't matter. So it's not about causing harm. The proper way to think about it, this just happens to be from Vanderbilt. This is kind of nice. It's from 2011. Medical mistakes interfere with hospitals, quote, do no harm, end quote, aim. I've always thought, do no harm. First, do no harm. And this goes back to the I was an EMT many years ago, the Good Samaritan laws, right? If you don't do anything, if you just call 911, that's fine. You don't do harm. Even if the patient may suffer because you do nothing, that's fine. You just do no harm. So do no harm to me. I don't know, maybe in the military, I don't know where I got the idea, but that's how I've always thought of it. First, do no harm. And this article from Vanderbilt University Research News, this is from 2011. These two, and they're actually, it's interesting, they're from the Vanderbilt Owen Graduate School of Management. So how do you manage a healthcare facility? I'm a frontline nurse. I really have no desire. I have no desire to have anything to do with management or any of that type of bureaucratic stuff. But they talk about this quote here, and I don't know why it's interesting, the formatting. So from Vogus, who's one of the Ramanujam and Vogus are the two professors at Vanderbilt. So this quote's from Vogus. Quote, in healthcare, a safety culture encompasses the shared values, attitudes, and behavioral norms that every member of the organization needs to focus on to minimize patient harm. Okay. 3 ways to create a safety culture in healthcare. And there's plenty of organizations agree with this. So first, by directing attention to safety through personal example and organizational practices, so subordinates actually see certain actions that lead to a safer environment. Secondly, by creating an atmosphere where practitioners feel safe to speak up and report medical errors without fear of recrimination. There's this idea that we can attain perfection. We can't attain perfection. We're not going. There's a great book that came out many, many years ago. Oh goodness gracious, I forget the name of it. Deep Leadership or something like that, and it goes through, talks about the psychology of a lot of this. But you're never going to reach perfection. You do your best, but one of the most important aspects of any system, especially the more complex it gets, is error feedback. Not just error correction, error feedback. When there's an error, you need feedback to how to correct it. That's part of this Veritas system, and it's supposed to be non-discoverable. Unfortunately, in the case of RaDonda Vaught, it was turned over, I don't think maliciously. And I don't know how much that had to do with the case. I don't think they learned anything really, or maybe they did. I don't know. The other people, again, have talked about those details. But error feedback and in turn error correction are important because you're not going to reach perfection, but you're striving for perfection. You're striving for the best you can do with the resources you have. So I think this conviction, which I think is just completely bogus, flies in the face of that. And a lot of people are going to think about, wow, this isn't worth it. I just have a target on my back. And I'll get to why I'm saying that. I have some pretty harsh language for the prosecution here in Nashville. So enabling, enacting, elaborating. Of course, you have to use the same letter to begin each one. It's easy to remember. Enacting a safety culture relies on the willingness of frontline employees to communicate about potential sources of error and unsafe conditions, to disclose errors and near misses, and to transmit their concerns upward in the organization. Yeah. Why? I mean, this was a medical error that happened. It was very unfortunate. I mean, yes, she did a lot of things wrong. Yeah, okay. But she did not intentionally cause harm. She did not intentionally cause harm. She does not belong in prison. Criminal charges should not have been brought. And the fact that they were, I have to, think a little hard about, whether I want to continue to work in Davidson County. I don't know that it's worth it. There's still some hope. Hopefully we can get rid of, these prosecutors and assistant DAs, but we'll see. And then when elaborating is focused on patient safety, 2 themes emerge: the centrality of reflection and the centrality of feedback. Right? If people are going to feel like there's going to be some kind of repercussions, they're just going to keep their mouth shut. and then more errors are going to happen. The prosecution, and actually I'll get to this. My plan is to go, I don't know how long this video is going to take, 5 hours or something, I don't know. Fortunately, when you start, you'll see the final product, you'll know whether you want to invest, the 10 hours or however long I shoot my mouth off. But right now, I really have no idea. But one of the things I want to do is I want to go through Chad Jackson's closing arguments and just comment on it. Just, let's let him talk a little bit and say, well, that's a pretty dumb thing to say. He does say some things that make sense, but he says a lot of really dumb things also. So I just want to point that out. And you can judge yourself. I mean, I think they're dumb, but maybe you think he's right on the money. So, and I'm a big fan of error correction and error feedback. My background's really science, true, real, hard physical science, not medicine, not biology, physical sciences. So I've done computer programming, mathematics, and things like that. So I have a very high view of error correction, especially in complex human systems. Right. So this quote at the end. So again, it's not causing harm, it's do no harm, or it's intending no harm. Since a medical professional's strongest belief is to help a patient, or at least, quote, do no harm, they're often reluctant to try something new. Avoidance is a natural response when a behavior like innovation, implementation, threatens deeply held norms. Again, this is a separate issue, but, looking back, I mean, I was a corpsman, a medic in the military. A lot of things that we do nowadays about how to treat trauma came out of Vietnam, and just people, slicing someone's, trachea open and sticking a pen in it, or I mean, just doing whatever you can to keep the airway open. Doing chest compressions years ago was a controversial thing. And can you do it with a mechanical device, do by hand? I mean, just all of this. It's not like we just ended up with the system we have. It's a very complex system we have, but people tried new things, and sometimes you'll make a mistake and we can learn from it and improve the system, and even just change the way we do things. So I'm going to move on now. It hasn't been accepted. I submitted an opinion piece to the Tennessean. It's my intellectual property, so I think I can share it. I don't know what they'll say about that. They may not publish it if I share it on here, but I'm going to share it on here. So I'm just going to put it up on the screen, and I'm just going to read it. I don't know if you'll be able to read it, but if you're, it doesn't matter. You can just listen. And then I even have like another introduction that I'll just read for this video. And I'm going to try to not get, too emotional, not like I'm going to break down and cry, but, upset. I mean, this really does irritate me. So I think to some extent it's good to convey that. Sometimes it's through language. Hopefully I don't use any foul language or anything like that. But I don't know. I'm just really bothered by how this went down. Anyway, so this is my opinion piece submitted to the Tennessean. I just submitted it yesterday, and I titled it Glenn Funk's Prosecutorial Posse Consciously Disregarded Key Evidence in the RaDonda Vaught Case. So this idea of consciously disregarded, I'll get to that and why that's describes exactly what they did and what they accuse RaDonda of doing, ironically. So Funk's prosecutorial posse pursued an emotionally charged conviction of RaDonda Vaught while consciously disregarding evidence. Much was made of the FBI's finding in January 2020 that 5.4 mLs remained of the 10 ml syringe with vecuronium. TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, did not measure the evidence before sending it to the FBI Federal Bureau of Investigation. However, the CMS report from fall 2018 indicates the syringe contained 8 mLs. Did Funk's team show how 5.4 ml can reproduce the images taken by TBI? No, because it cannot be done with less than 7 ml. Can we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that enough was given to the patient to cause her death? No, especially given the testimony of Feng Li, referred to by the defense, and how easy it is to lose fluid from a questionably handled needle-capped syringe. Without an autopsy, it is not a fact that the patient could only have died from, quote, acute vecuronium intoxication. It is a convenient conjecture shrouded in false certainty and circular reasoning. RaDonda may have been distracted from being a perfect nurse, but Funk's team was distracted from the truth. RaDonda's actions can be called many things, but it is reckless to have found them criminal. The jury was to be the, quote, complete weigher of all fact. They ended up being fabricators of fact. Hopefully, Judge Smith is not distracted by emotional pleas and gives the minimal sentence, and Governor Li completely exonerates RaDonda. That's the only way to get this behind us and keep the trust of our nurses. So again, I submitted that to the Tennessean. I don't know what their process is or how. I mean, maybe 2 weeks before it's approved or published, or even if they care about it. I really don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna move on and read kind of another more stinging introduction for kind of my conscious intention here, right? Intention, conscious, they usually go together, but not for the prosecution. Okay, so Glenn Funk's Prosecutorial Posse, consisting of Chad Jackson, Britanni Flatt, and others, consciously, recklessly, negligently disregarded key evidence in the RaDonda Vaught trial. They did so, quote, other than by accidental means, end quote. They have the training to assess evidence, and they did not, resulting in the conviction of RaDonda Vaught for criminally negligent homicide and abuse of an impaired elder. As a nurse with 35 years experience in the medical field, from being a volunteer EMT when I was 16 to 10 years of active and reserve military service as an infantryman, Army medic, and Navy Corpsman, as well as nearly 20 years as an LVN, LPN, and registered nurse, mostly in the ICU setting, I watched as much of the trial as I could and reviewed related documents. It is deeply concerning to me that either conviction was voted on by the jury. Nothing the prosecution presented is inconsistent with RaDonda's testimony that she only gave 1 milligram or 1 ml of what she thought was Versed. The defense made it very clear that the medical examiner, Dr. Feng Li, is on record as saying 1 milligram of vecuronium, or 1/7 of the paralyzing dose, would not be lethal. Sentencing is this Friday, May 13th, and I asked Judge Smith to give the least possible sentence and or fine, and that Governor Li completely exonerates RaDonda. This is not just a grievance of prosecutorial incompetence that affects Nashville, Davidson County, but Tennessee as a whole. As the first criminal conviction of a medication error, this case, unless reversed, will echo throughout the medical community for years to come. It is highly unlikely that echo will make healthcare safer. And yeah, you can criticize me for having a run-on sentence here, but all right. So, people are not going to be as willing to share, if they have a near miss or they make a mistake. And I'll go through some of that more. I don't want to focus on the details of the case. It was just painful listening to a lot of the testimony. Some of the testimony was very, very impressive. Very impressed with some of the experts that were brought in. Eye-opening how trials actually occur. I don't know that I've ever really watched as much as I could of a trial from start to finish. I mean, usually you just hear tidbits here and there, but I mean, it's performance. I mean, it's theater. It's not frustratingly, it's not about pursuing the truth. It's about, who can tell the better story, and what actually happened is just of note. It just doesn't matter at all, and that's very disturbing, because something did actually happen, and the goal of the justice system should try to be to figure out, let's get as close as possible to what happened, and then let's talk about that. That wasn't done by the prosecution at all. So this is by Britanni Flatt. I can't remember her name. We'll come across it later. So I really just, listening to her closing arguments, it was just painful. I don't think she's ever been anything close to, having to be a nurse or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe she was a nurse or in the military. I don't know. You never can tell. But based on this little, 41-minute presentation she gave, just not at all impressed with her ability to understand what it's like to work in an ICU. And one thing that struck me, other people talked about different aspects, or in the comments you can read, but no one pointed out, she kept saying consciously disregarded. So she'll say consciously disregard. I don't know how many times. I mean, it's hard to get a transcript that you can rely on, but 10 times, 15 times. So, okay, if RaDonda did indeed consciously disregard whatever, safety, whatever, if she consciously disregarded over and over, then, and that's what led to this potential. I mean, we don't even know if the patient got enough of the medication to kill her. So that's even begs that question, causation. But if it's so obvious, then you don't have to tell people that. So in a sense, this is like brainwashing. This is playing, psychological manipulation. Consciously disregarded. But then she also says at some point, like, she doesn't think RaDonda intended to do harm or intended to kill the patient. So she didn't intentionally do something, but she consciously disregarded. So, yes, she pressed override, and she did this and she did that. I mean, it's all, we'll get to some of it in one of the articles we look at, the 17 thing, whatever. I'm not impressed by all of that. So if we look up consciously, synonyms for consciously are advisedly, deliberately, designedly, intentionally is what comes to mind for me. Knowingly, purposefully, purposively, willfully, wittingly. I would say more, no, RaDonda unwittingly got caught up into a channel of events that led somehow to the patient dying. I don't know that, we don't really know. No autopsy was done. We don't really know. So I don't even know why charges were brought. But anyway, they got their conviction, so, yay, good for them. I'm being sarcastic. I don't really think that. Okay, so consciously means intentionally. So she had to have intentionally done all of these things, knowing the consequences, right? Intentionally do it. Well, I don't think that's true. So if we look back, and then now what I focus on is just the evidence. I don't really care about opinion or the speculation and conjecture that the prosecution throws around. So, this happened in December 2017, and then it wasn't until the fall of 2018, for whatever reasons. There's lots of speculation, but basically, for whatever reason, I'm not going to go into all those details. If you're watching this, you're probably aware of the details. CMS, or whatever, got called in, and on their November 2nd, 2018, 12:35 p.m., made some observations made in conference 167. Now, why the syringes and the vial were kept in the same bag for a year, I don't know. It's interesting. So obviously, risk management thought it was important. Okay, that's fine. I'm not trying to cast any nefarious intentions on them. But they didn't obviously consider it as evidence in a crime. and they didn't, and consistently, they didn't, and they've said that publicly. I'm not putting words in their mouth. They testified during the trial. Jeff Balzer has made a public announcement that he doesn't think that this medical error shouldn't have been criminalized. So I'm not, trying to make them sound nefarious. But my point is the bag and the contents were not handled carefully. That Gail Lanigan, who is, I think she's a Department of Health investigator. I don't think she's for TBI. Her fingerprints were on one of the syringes. Oh well, I don't. That doesn't indicate to me any kind of, malevolence or nefarious intervention. I'm not suggesting that, but on at least to the person, I forget who filled this out. Maybe I don't know if it was Gail Lanigan. I think the CMS investigator was different. Anyway, there was one 10 ml syringe labeled normal saline with a capped needle attached. So capped needle attached, that matters. The syringe had 8 ml of a clear liquid remaining in it. Okay. 8 ml. So remember that. That's important. This is in November 2018, 1 year after the incident. There was one 10 ml syringe, and then down here labeled normal saline with 1.5 mLs of a clear liquid remaining in it and capped with a white cap with no needle, and then alcohol preps and the nearly empty bottle of reconstituted vecuronium. So this syringe had 8 mils of a clear liquid remaining in it. The prosecution know this. Prosecution read that. I mean, they should have read this. Or not. I mean, it doesn't tell the story they want, so why would they care about it? And that's why they're incompetent, in my opinion. They weren't concerned with the truth. So, also in this, I want to point out that the 2 radiology techs were interviewed. And I forget, I mean, you can kind of figure out they're like RRT1 and RRT2. You can figure out, in the testimony, you can figure out which one's 1 and which one's 2, because based on where they were, I was very impressed with their testimony. And their composure on the stand was very, very impressive. But the one radiology tech who said, I saw her, I'm not quoting here, I'm kind of paraphrasing, and the prosecution mentions this in their final closing statements, push, a half to a third or a third to a half of the contents of the syringe into the patient. Okay, so that was mentioned during the trial just here, in March 2022, 4.5 years after the incident. I don't know when, and the defense mentioned this, but I don't think forcefully enough. That's not mentioned at all. I mean, that's a very important observation. That's not mentioned at all in this CMS report. I mean, I can go through and show you, you can go read. It's not there. I can't show you what's not there. I mean, we can go through and read every line and say, oh, it's not there, but it's just not there. So maybe I missed it, but I read through the whole thing. I didn't see it. So that's suspicious to me. Again, I'm not accusing her of malicious intent. I don't think she doesn't seem at all like a malicious person. The nuclear med technician, or I'm not sure the actual title, but she doesn't seem like a malicious person at all. Okay, well, that's true, but I think people overestimate what their memory actually is, and I'll get to that a little later. And I can't remember what these tabs are that I'm getting to. So this is okay. Here we go. So this is the big image that So this is from. I'll talk about this quickly, and then I'll go through the whole document. This was presented during the trial by Chad Jackson, I think during Agent Moore's FBI, and just like, yeah, dude, you're an FBI agent, obviously, right? Like him, he's just so stereotypically, like, I don't know, just very, very well composed, and like I was very, very impressed with his testimony. They talked about TBI got involved for whatever reason in the fall of 2018, a year after and had this bag of contents. And I forget that there was a fingerprint specialist who did the fingerprints, and he found, Gail Lanigan's fingerprints. Okay, whatever. I don't think it wasn't considered criminal evidence at the time, so whatever. That's no big deal. That's just an indication that the bag and the contents, who knows who kind of did what to the bag. And no fingerprints doesn't mean it wasn't manipulated, because you can manipulate it you can push mistakenly on the syringe just by handling the bag. If you have the bag vertical in a cabinet, I don't know, like over time, is the syringe going to sneak down? I don't know. No one knows. That's the thing. So let me. I don't know if I can go to the top. Okay, I'm not a Mac person, but so this is it. Criminal court for Davidson County. State's response to requests for discovery. I'm not a lawyer or a legal nurse consultant or anything. State of Tennessee versus RaDonda Vaught. March 2019. So this is, I think, kind of what information is going to be shared with the defense and kind of the information they have. I don't know if there's more information or more documents or things like that. But part of it, summary of defendant's interview, this bold part here, summary of defendant's interview with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Full audio recording will be furnished on a portable electronic device provided by the defense. That was actually heartbreaking to hear that in court. But I don't know. I call her RaDonda. I don't know Miss Vaught, but I call her RaDonda. I've never met her, never worked with her. This is just all something I kind of fell into because it was in the news. It doesn't seem, from day one, from what she reported immediately after this happened, has not changed at all, from what I can tell. Okay, to me, that's a sign of, her of innocence, right? She doesn't have to make up a story or remember what she said in detail, because she's just saying what she remembers best happened. And I don't know. I've given lots of meds, and I could probably walk out and you would ask me, "Hey, come here. How'd you do it?" I don't know. I just gave a med. I don't remember the details, because in RaDonda Vaught today, she went down. She was going to go do the swallow study. She gave the med. She is a newer nurse, and one of I think the nurse educator from the neuro ICU or step down pointed this out. She was operating under, okay, the patient's unmonitored. I can give this unmonitored. There was nothing, you're not supposed to do it like that, but that's a learning experience. That's not a crime. She was at the Pyxis / Omniset, whatever you call it. They call it different things. And she was talking. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. But she's a newer nurse. She hasn't seen other nurses make minor mistakes or made enough minor mistakes herself to realize, no. I've worked at hospitals where you put a sash on and no one's supposed to talk to you, and, time stops and you can focus completely on, what you're doing. So that didn't happen. Okay, those are errors, and as the defense pointed out, system failures also, which I'll get to a little later. But at the end of her, she was just very open about everything, very impressively open. And at the end, she was, asking, I forget the investigator's name, I think also Smith. So before she was interviewed, she filled out, here's something here. I'll talk about the vial of vecuronium, 2 syringes, 1 alcohol prep pad, blah, 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 in the bag, termination letter from Vanderbilt, January 3rd, 2018. So just a month, few weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week after the incident, 26 December 2017. The vial and the syringes had to be sent off to the FBI because TBI, not surprisingly, doesn't have didn't have the capability to measure vecuronium. This isn't something that they normally test for, so that's understandable. They had to send it off to the FBI, but I don't think it was managed at all. The evidence was not managed at all the way it should have been. The most important evidence in this whole case is the amount of fluid in that 10 ml syringe in which the vecuronium turns out to have been reconstituted. Because if that was just saline and then the 1.5 cc syringe was the one with vecuronium, then, oh my goodness, wow. So where'd the other, 8.5 cc's go? Well, no, that's not the case. It's the syringe with the loosely capped blunt tip needle. And I'll talk more about that. So, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but at the same time, I'm doing my best to be organized with these documents. Written response, open file, okay. So then we get to, so these are the two people, Chad Jackson, Britanni Flatt, who, the two senior people, I think, or at least the ones assigned to the case. I don't really know how this works, but they gave the closing arguments. Forgive me for saying this, but I think people will understand when I say it. The older woman, not old like old, but older than it seems to me, Chad and or Mr. Jackson and Mrs. Flatt, who gave the opening statement. She was very impressive. I mean, I didn't like the way she phrased some things, but overall, it was impressive, and I get it. I mean, I was open to, the case. I didn't really understand what was going on until I listened to all the testimony. But the closing arguments by Britanni Flatt and Chad Jackson just got my dander up for sure. And just some of the facts of the case. Again, I don't know if it's worth going through all of this. I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you probably are aware of all these facts. If not, you should make yourself aware. You can get this document yourself from the TBI. All the things that look horrible, she admitted, or she administered Versed before. And that's one thing, I guess I'll get to this, but I think Chad Jackson mentions that this doesn't happen often, right? This is a big deal. We need to prosecute this. Okay, no. We don't know how often this happens, because never before has there been a secret leak, right? So Vanderbilt treated it as a process improvement situation. It was a medication error. We need to improve the process so this doesn't happen again. And I think they behaved, from the incident, they behaved consistently. I believe them in that. I don't think there was any kind of nefarious, I don't think they threw RaDonda under the bus. Not suggesting she get counsel while she was fired, 2 weeks or a week, 2 weeks, pretty quickly after the incident. But Vanderbilt didn't view it as a criminal act, didn't report it as a criminal act. So, I don't think it would even cross their mind to suggest, okay, you should get a lawyer. And then going into, talking to the TBI, it's not like she was an employee of Vanderbilt. So I'm not into all this, conspiracy theory stuff. I think this is just incompetence on the part of the prosecution and incompetence on the part of TBI, because there's no excuse for why they didn't measure the amount, right? I don't know that would be the fingerprint specialist's job. I mean, he just basically extracted the liquid so that he wouldn't, bump the syringe and lose some. I mean, so I don't blame him. I don't know who would be responsible, but it is unacceptable and incompetent that Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, as an institution, because I don't know who the individual is, didn't measure the amount in the syringes, because that's the evidence. We don't know how much the patient got. We only know how much is left. CMS says it was 8 mLs. Well, we're going to get to, and then FBI, the FBI, by the time, so TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, fall of 2018 had this. FBI received this sample, and they'd been, I think, extracted from the syringes. The evidence, right, in January, February of 2019, and then off the top of my head, hopefully these years are correct. It wasn't until 2020, I think February 2020, that the FBI measured the amount. Well, I mean, that's not incompetence. That's just, I mean, they're busy, right? That's a sign of how, and the pandemic probably slowed them up and stuff like that. So, well, we'll get to that. But anyway, this is the sad part. TBI warnings as to constitutional rights. This breaks my heart. She signed all this, read to her. You can't say, she wasn't made aware, but I don't think it's sunk in what was going on. I think she was just there thinking, okay, I didn't commit a crime. I need to be as open as possible to help, this not happen again, which that's the attitude that nurses should have in situations like this. I think RaDonda did the right thing, except, more skeptical, seasoned people would have been like, I'm not saying anything to you unless I have a damn lawyer here, because some damn prosecutor like Glenn Funk or Chad Jackson or Britanni Flatt is going to take this and hang me with it. That's why you have a lawyer with you. That's the lesson from all of this. You need a lawyer with you to defend you against other lawyers who don't give a damn about you as an individual or your intentions. Okay, and I'll get to what I think the motivation was. So, sorry, I could even be more, irritated. I'm trying to hold back here. So at the end of the interview, you listen to the whole thing. She's very open, very honest. Then kind of asks more or less, so what's the next step? And then the investigator says, well, I'm going to submit this to the DA's office, or I think the state attorney. I don't know all this legal nonsense. But I call it nonsense because it's all performance. I mean, it's just disturbing how it's not objective. It's not objective. That's for sure. The law is not objective. It's just the way it is. It's not. And if you think it is, then you don't understand how language. And you don't understand language or human behavior. So, anyway, at the end of the interview, RaDonda says, "Oh, right, so I should get a lawyer?" And you just think, "Oh, my heart breaks. My heart broke. Girl, you should have gotten a lawyer before you went to the TBI." And then all of this was used against her, and hearing her own voice. I mean, it's just sad. I still, given all of that, I don't think she should have been convicted of anything, but it just breaks my heart, and it's a lesson, if you're a decent, trusting person, some slick talking lawyer is gonna take advantage of you for sure. That's the way the world works. It's like used car salesman. Okay. The paralytic drug. Okay, so this is interesting. This on the top of the vial, it's upside down. So this is the front of the vial. Let me see if I can. All right, I can. Oops. All right, the top of the vial. So much was made of, RaDonda had just pulled Versed 26.232 hours before or something. I don't know. Very, very recently. It did strike her as odd that it was a powder, but again, she's not an experienced nurse. She was distracted. That's not a crime to be distracted. It's not a crime to be distracted. It is not a crime to be distracted. Now, yes, she shouldn't have been. But the system, when you're pulling a medication, should be set up such that you might be distracted when you're doing it. The system should be set up assuming that you may be distracted when you're doing it. So the system was, and changes have been made to the system since, which just tells you, hey, there were things that kind of channeled this to happen, not just RaDonda Vaught being, consciously or consciously disregarding, right? Yes, she shouldn't have done the override, but if you do the override searching for generic, and I used to get confused by this all the time. Oh, it was just so, I was like, why is this guy, this just drives me nuts. I just want the damn med. Yeah. So she put in VE, distracted, pulled out vecuronium. Well, it never should have been possible to pull out the vecuronium. I don't understand. This doesn't make sense to me. You should, whether it's brand name or generic name, it doesn't matter. If you put in VE and there's 5 meds that begin with VE, they're all grayed out. I don't care if you've done an override or not. They're all grayed out. Can't pull one of them. You keep putting in letters until you have a unique answer. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. There's no reason why it can't be like that. It could have been like that, 20 years. It could have been like that. I mean, this is not that hard to program, right? So you put in VE, there's 5 meds, whatever. You put in VER, there's 3 meds. You still can't take a med out. You put in VERQ. So if you put in VERS, then now you have one medication up there. You hit it and it says, do you want to override, blah, 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 all this other stuff. But the fact that just because you override, you're given this panel of medications from which to choose, that doesn't make sense. Well, it's an emergency. Okay, well, yeah. It still doesn't make sense. Now, there's been changes that have been made, specifically at Vanderbilt, that changed this. I don't think they even have vecuronium. I think they have rocuronium now. Vecuronium is not even in there. You have to put in paralytic, PARAL, or the first 5 letters or something. I don't know, all these things. So so basically, this couldn't have happened today. Now, what does that mean? It means that there are problems with the system. I don't think they were nefarious problems. I don't think they were criminal problems. But it just means that a trusting, new, distracted person got channeled into a bad situation and someone died as a result. Or not. We don't know. I'm not convinced that the patient died because of the vecuronium. And I don't think anyone should be unless you just want to force that. So much was made of, let's back up, on the top here, the red, right? So on the front, vecuronium bromide for injection, for IV use only, protect from light, 1 milligram per ml, when reconstituted, 10 ml, Lake Forest, 10 ml. Okay, nothing on the front says anything about being a paralytic or anything like that. You do not have to turn this damn vial around, regardless of what the cackling hag, cackling hag. Everyone knows who I'm talking about when I say that. The cackling hag. That woman, I understand why the prosecution picked her, but I have no respect for her as an expert witness. None. I've been doing this. I've been in the medical field 35 years. When's the last time she worked at the bedside and how long did she do it? That's all I care about. When's the last time she worked consistently in an ICU in any kind of capacity for a year, full time? When's the last time that happened? That's all I care about. I don't care book knowledge. I don't give a damn about book knowledge or what a perfect nurse would do or what you should do. I don't care about any of that crap. I don't care. So, sorry, a little irritated by the cackling hag, but I'm going to call her. It's cackling hag. Accuse me of using an ad hominem. That's fine. I don't care. Everyone knows who I'm talking about, so it's not that hard to, it's not that bad to say. Okay, you don't have to turn this around. Okay, reconstituted 10 mLs. It doesn't say it must be in bacteriostatic water. You can actually dilute vecuronium or reconstitute vecuronium in normal saline. There's nothing wrong with that. You can. I've done it myself. You can. There's nothing wrong. So on the back side, on the top, paralytic agent warning or warning paralytic agent. Okay. So someone takes this around and look at the jury. You show it to the jury. Look, it's right there. Big red letters. Big red letters on the bottom of the drawer when you take the medic. It doesn't matter. If you think you pulled Versed, that stuff doesn't register. So paralyzing agent on the top. Okay, you don't have to necessarily put the vial on a tabletop, pop the top. Oh, it says paralyzing. What is that? Oh, no. If she reconstituted this when she was down with the patient, you turn it upside down, you put the needle in it, you don't have to even see this. I don't know if that makes sense, but you don't have to look at the back. You don't have to look at this to draw the medication up. You just don't. Now, if you want to tell a nice story, you say, oh my goodness, she had to look and say it was bacteriostatic water. She neglected to use that. She never should have used saline. Well, it didn't say on the front. She didn't see this label. You don't have to look at the label. You don't have to look at the top of you can do it. You just need to tilt it. You don't need to be able to read what's on it, and you put the needle in. I've done this thousands of times. Okay? You don't have to have seen this or read the back of the damn vial to draw it up. Regardless of what that cackling hag said. Probably not professional of me to say that, but I don't give a damn. I don't think she was professional in saying this had any resemblance whatsoever to drunk driving. That's what pisses me off about the cackling hag. That's what no. This is not at all similar. So the fact that she brought that up and the defense attorney didn't rip her a new asshole for saying something so stupid. Sorry, I apologize, but this is nothing like being drunk, getting drunk, and driving drunk. Absolutely nothing like it. But you plant those kind of seeds. All you have to do is, if you want to convict someone, you just tell stories, and this jury just not at all impressed with them. They didn't think very carefully about what they were doing either, but they kind of went with the general sense of what the prosecution was saying. And it was a Friday, they wanted to get out of there. It's just very sad, but I don't understand how they found her guilty on either charge. Fortunately, they found her not reckless homicide, but criminally negligent homicide. But even that, they're just nope. Anyway, I don't know what else I want to talk about here. Okay, so the syringe. Let me go to. So this is the whole syringe. The plunger here, the syringe itself, blunt tip needle. I use these thousands of times. This type of saline syringe, this type of blunt tip needle. So I know what I'm talking about. Okay. Keep going. Oh, okay, so it's upside down. All right. So if we look here, this is the picture taken by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation in the fall of 2018. More than a year after this syringe has been in a bag in some locked compartment, handled by who knows how many people. It's not that hard. So in some sense, there's no top, or there's no cap. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see the cursor. Like when you view this, I mean, I can see it, but if you look at the bottom where it's red, and I'll show another. Well, I guess let me move down here and show the. So this is the red part in that other image. I'll go back to. It's a blunt tip needle. You can see here. It's not like you can poke yourself with it, but not very badly. And then, so this is just open to air. There may be a little drop right there. And then this cap just doesn't go on. It clicks on there, but air can pass through there, and you can actually push very, very, very easily. So if I draw up a medication that I'm trying to measure precisely, I don't leave the blunt tip on it. I put a cap on it because you can easily bump it out. Like if you're giving some kind of controlled medication, like she thought the Versed was, sure, probably shouldn't have left this cap on it, but she did. Oh well. If you're careful, it doesn't matter. But the point is, if it was in the bag, and you can see here the air bubble, right? You could easily push a little bit out into this. It would evaporate, and then you're not going to have like drops in the bottom of the bag. That is an entirely reasonable scenario. And anyone who says otherwise is going to have to do some splaining, because I ain't taking it. All right, so here, looking at the backside, there's the air bubble, a little air bubble here. So the way this air bubble is, this syringe, in this perspective, the picture is taken more or less perpendicular to the syringe, and the syringe is horizontal. Because if the syringe were vertical, and then the camera angle were horizontal, I don't know, hopefully that makes sense to you. I was thinking of doing a video to show all this, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone's even going to watch this one. So, if you ever use a level, right, that bubble being on where it is on the syringe, this syringe is more or less level. The surface is more or less horizontal, and the camera is more or less perpendicular. So if we go back up here, where's my... So this one, okay. So it doesn't really seem like there's any air down here. There has to be quite a bit in air. So the bottom of this meniscus is above 6. We'll say it's 6. Okay. So if you were to take this and put it vertically, there is at least 6 mLs in this syringe. You cannot say otherwise. If you do, you're talking about some kind of magic bullet that killed JFK or something, right? You're thinking about some alternative universe with different laws of physics. So there's at least 6 mLs. And then the fact that this water kind of tapers back, right? There's more than 6. So if you took this and you put it vertically, you would have a measurement, a certain amount, probably up here closer to 7, if you made this vertical. This plunger, I don't know if this is the plunger, this is the plunger. Okay, this part right here, it actually protrudes down. Okay? It's convex. About a half cc. I've done this enough, I know. I can just tell you. You can, I'll make a video, for people who are skeptical or, just they don't believe me. So my point being, if you were to invert this and put the needle up, and with the needle on this, you can do this very easily. Put the needle up, flick all the air out, and push all the air out, you have more than 5.4 ml. There is no possible way, given this universe with our laws of physics, that this syringe at this time has only 5.4 mLs in it. It is impossible. So if you, and I've done this, I've done this because I use these syringes all the time. If you take a syringe like this and you have enough fluid in there to reproduce this picture, okay? And then you put the needle up and you push all the air out, you have about 7, or you could even do it 7.5 mLs. Not 6.5. More, it's got to be more than 6.5. Not 5.4. Not way down here. This is what I want Chad Jackson, Glenn Funk, Britanni Flatt. Y'all need to go on the news, get a syringe, and show how you can reproduce this image from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So the plunger is a little bit more than 8. So that kind of changes the way that the angle of the meniscus. Reproduce this image with only 5.4 mLs of fluid in the syringe, which is what the FBI measured. Now, I don't think there was any kind of nefarious activity. I think it just evaporated. So sodium chloride is just water with salt, with sodium and chloride dissolved in it, and then the vecuronium dissolved in it, and then Chad Moore, I think it was Chad Moore, the FBI agent, found, vecuronium. I think in this he only found vecuronium, I think, in the vial and like the drop that was left, vecuronium and the decay products of it. Probably because the concentration of the decay products in here, I don't know. I don't remember that there were decay products, but it doesn't matter. You could have vecuronium in here, sodium in here, chloride in here, and water could evaporate very easily. Be pushed, or you could have fluid, whole fluid, pushed into this and then evaporate out of the cap, and no one ever knows the better. So CMS says 8. That's where the plunger is. I don't know if they actually measured 8. Who knows if when RaDonda gave this to Ethan Gully, the plunger may have been at 9. Maybe she drew the whole thing up, gave 1 ml, and then over time, because to pull pull the plunger back while it was in the bag, no, you're not going to be able to do that. You need 2 points. You need to put tension on it. That's so hard. If you have it on the table or the bottom of the bag is your second point, to push that plunger down is very, 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 very easy. And fluid can be pushed into this, and then maybe 1 or 2 drops here and there being handled around. So we don't know that when she gave the syringe to Ethan Gully, and he doesn't seem to have remembered, I don't know, he looked at it, he was like, oh my God, this is vecuronium. But if she gave it to him to waste, well, she's going to waste for said. Like, she's not going to give it to him with 5.4 mLs in it. So then she has to explain to him where the remainder is. So she gave it to him to waste. Like, that just means, like, she gave 1 ml. Like, I don't know. She gave 1 ml. Now, she doesn't distinctly remember that. She says, like, that's her practice. She was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. I believe that. That's better than this, idiotic story that the prosecution put together, which doesn't even match the evidence. Doesn't match the evidence. Oh, sorry. Probably getting carried away here. What'd be really funny is I'm not even recording this. That would be hilarious. Okay. Anyway, at least 7 mLs in here. So that's a lot. If CMS, when they saw it, there was 8, it lost 1 cc. I don't know. Or did the CMS person look and see the plunger? I don't know. I don't even care. The point is, this syringe has more than 5.4 mLs in it. Way more. A cc and a half more. This other syringe down here, so this one with the white cap, 1.5 mLs here, it's capped off. The only way you could, the burst pressure of the syringe, like if you push so hard, or more than likely if you push hard enough, the fluid would leak up around the plunger and come out. But 1.5 mLs, you can look here, that's 1.5 mLs. And then that's what the FBI measured, 1.5 mLs, when they measured it in 2020. That makes sense because there's this, and there is a little air bubble. Actually, you can see here. I would say if the plunger protrusion is about 0.5 ml, that's probably about 1/10 of an ml or something. That's not much. So it makes sense that this has consistently 1.5 mLs, and that's what CMS reported also, because it has this cap squeezed on there that can't let fluid out. The needle, look at that, it's got a hole in it right there. So it can just leak out, not on purpose, no nefarious activity, no malevolence. Just, people handling it thinking, well, it's a syringe. Like it's not criminal evidence. Or that much, well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. I'll just say no malevolence. So that's it for this. Sorry, I'm talking over an hour already. So let me go here. So this is from Hospital Watchdog. This is from 3 years ago, and they have shared. So a group of people. So they probably have an editorial group that looks at this, and for a nurse to air, I love this. A little satanic, demonic, right? Guest speaker Glenn Funk, Vanderbilt law professor. Oh, that's interesting. That's why he couldn't be involved in the case directly himself. He has a conflict of interest, as does Feng Li, Dr. Feng Li. I refer to him as Feng Li. I don't use Dr. Feng Li because I only had 250 words in my opinion. I had 250 words, so I had to get rid of the doctor. My apologies to Dr. Feng Li. I think he has a PhD also. He's an impressive guy. like his training. Medical examiners tend to be pretty smart. Okay, for a nurse, I'm going to read this little caption here from the. Oh wow, my goodness gracious, this is like directed. I don't know who did this. Vanderbilt School of Medicine, Light Hall, room 411B. For a nurse to err is criminal, but the hospital administrators, they didn't know what they didn't know. I'm going to give them a break. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really after Vanderbilt on this. But I mean, Glenn Funk definitely, I don't know. The fact that Davidson County has effectively reelected him, some small proportion of, Democrats who voted, or I don't think they're open primary. So Democrats who voted for him in the primary just a few days ago, they probably don't even know about this. And then, people are what? People are distracted. Right? They're distracted. So Glenn Funk, ironically, in all this, may end up as district attorney in the fall because the people of Davidson County are distracted. That's what he needs. Definitely, if people knew about all this, they wouldn't reelect him. They'd make him, Chad Jackson, and Britanni Flatt all need to resign, as far as I'm concerned. I don't live in Davidson County. Otherwise, I'd be, taking whatever political action I could to get them out of office. Although at the same time, there was an election, so that has some weight for me as well. So ISMP is the Institute for Safe Medication Practices. The real issue in this case is that there were no effective systems in place to prevent or detect the accidental selection, removal, and administration of a neuromuscular blockade that had been obtained via override. The defense pointed this out. The jury didn't care. And then they clarify this post is not a defense of Nurse Vaught's admittedly egregious actions. Yes, egregious, call them lots of things, but not criminal. CMS cited Vanderbilt in the deficiency report for failing to prevent a preventable death. And then that CMS report, where's it here? There's another version of this that was leaked. I don't think Vanderbilt leaked it. Where they put in this right-hand column all the things they've done to kind of remediate, is that the word? I think remediate all of the suggestions that CMS had made. So changes were made. Where is it? Here we go. All right, Vanderbilt forced to provide safe medication practices, plan of correction, 330 pages to specify all the changes. So yeah, a lot was changed. So a lot of things have been changed. If they were in place, the death may or may not have, we don't know why the patient died. So all of this may be irrelevant. The patient may have gotten the 1 milligram, all of that. Like you're not going to stay down there for 25 minutes monitoring a patient when you give, really? I mean, don't get me started. This is all a separate thing, because if they knew the clock was ticking, they knew she was claustrophobic. I mean, there's just so many other issues. That's why I'm just focusing on this. The causation is all I'm focusing on, because you can't demonstrate cause. So vecuronium was taken off override. Barcoding verification in radiology. I think that was planned anyway. They were rolling out Epic. So I don't know. That was planned anyway. Second nurse verification in radiology. Nurse required to enter PARA for paralytic agent in the ADC, automatic dispensing cabinet or something like that, which is Pyxis. Monitoring high-risk medications such as Versed and vecuronium that previously did not exist. So whatever. All this is just kind of extra as to why there should have been no conviction. Never mind that there was no causation, and the whole idea of criminal neglect, or whatever it was, criminal abuse of an elder. Well, okay, so Nurses are raging and quitting after the RaDonda Vaught verdict. Again, another article. This came out quite a bit ago. April 5th, a little over a month ago. The Becker's article was just from Friday here. The ANA, American Association of Critical Care Nurses, are just, this conviction just has more potential for, increases the potential of this happening again. It doesn't decrease it, it increases. And I don't know that sending RaDonda to prison or fining her an egregious amount, just any amount of money at this point, just all of this should just go away. There's a plea for her clemency, like 211,000 people have signed it. Governor Lee has said he's not going. I say he should exonerate her, just completely. This never happened. That's what should happen. It shouldn't just be clemency or pardon. It should be, this is wiped from the record. This never happened. That's what really should happen. So, Governor Lee, spokesperson Casey Black, and this was a few years ago, said that outside of death penalty cases, the governor relies on the Board of Parole to recommend defendants for clemency, which happens only after sentencing and a board investigation. I don't know how the law works. I don't know, but so she has to go to prison, and then the parole board is going to look at it and say, well, there's no new information. There's nothing. The prosecution overlooked the fact that the patient most likely did not receive enough vecuronium to cause her death. Period. They were incompetent. So I don't know what Judge Smith can do about that. Throw it out, appeal. I have no idea. But I don't know why Governor Lee can't just exonerate her and just say, yeah, I don't care about what, this case never should have been brought. Or maybe, Glenn Funk will develop some humility, or Chad Jackson, or, Britanni Flatt, but I doubt it. So actually, this is going to go here. Okay, so there's something called the Invisible Gorilla. So if you're not familiar with the Invisible Gorilla, it's a book, actually a psychology demonstration by Christopher Chabris and Daniel Simmons. It's a book. There's quite a few chapters in it. It's a very interesting book. And the Invisible Gorilla is basically people watch a video of people dressed in black shirts and people dressed in white shirts. And they've done this with other, it's not just black and white. You don't need to be racist about it. It has nothing to do with racism. If you're that kind of shallow, simple-minded person who thinks in terms of race, then, this has nothing to do with that. But unfortunately, people do have simple, shallow minds, so they see race everywhere. But, oh well. So if you say, okay, count the people with the white shirts, how many times they pass the ball around. Okay? So it means you're not really paying attention to the people with the black shirts. So as you're counting those people, there's a gorilla that comes out, stands in the middle of the people passing the ball, jumps around for, quite a significant amount of time, and then goes off to the side. 50% of people, or whatever the numbers are, don't even see the gorilla. Now, for the people who do see the gorilla, is because they're not counting very carefully, who knows? Maybe some people are more apt to see, the pattern changes. But the point is, if you're not paying attention, right? And that's what the prosecution says, well, no, not paying attention. No, she should have been paying attention. Yes, she should have, but she was distracted, not by talking to, her friends about what they're going to do on the weekend. She has this other mission she's on, and she's focused on that. And then she's given this second mission. So that did distract her from what she was doing. She was planning on, getting prepared for the for the swallow study, and teaching the new hire about it. pulling from a Pyxis, giving a med. The new hire was oblivious because why? Like, I've been in orientation. Like, I've done this. Like, whatever. It's just she's doing her thing. I'm just kind of waiting until this is done so we can move on with my orientation. This crap where, the cackling hag says, no, every time you need to. Oh, shut up. Oh, shut up. God, so obviously you haven't worked full time, day after damn day. It doesn't matter whether you're tired. It's tiring and it's hard to be a nurse baseline when things go your way in general. So you don't sit there and teach every damn second. I mean, I would hate to have whoever that woman was. I don't know that I could work with her. Anyway, there's different personalities. But she's exactly the kind of person the prosecution needed. That's why they picked her. Because she hasn't worked at the bedside in probably 20 years. Okay, so the invisible gorilla, there's something called inattentional blindness. So this is, I don't care if you read this. I have like 20 pages of notes that I've written, and this is just one little example of it. So the invisible gorilla is a book. They go over different illusions. The illusion of attention. So people think they're paying attention. And they show all kinds of examples of people thinking that they understand what's going on, and then it's not. Some things are being changed out. The illusion of memory. They give examples of cases where eyewitness testimony has sworn confidently that person A committed the crime, and it turns out, years later, the person was innocent. But there's the illusion of confidence. So people, because if a witness is confident, you're more likely to believe them. Well, you shouldn't believe them because they're confident. No. Con women, con artists, right? Confidence man. That's what it's not convict, it's confidence man. So they try and gain your confidence and they screw you over. So not the illusion of knowledge, where people think they know more than they actually know. The illusion of cause. People think A causes B. No, that's not always true. Of one's personal potential, of intuition. So the big ones that matter are the illusion of attention and inattentional blindness, which is you're paying attention to one thing. It's not that you're not paying attention at all. You're not drunk, right? You're not inhibited. You're not under the influence. You're paying attention to one thing. You're doing one thing. You're giving versed. So you don't pay attention to this other. You're just because I read Sherlock Holmes with my son a lot at night, and Sherlock tells Watson, you see but you do not observe, right? So Sherlock walks into the same room, Watson walks into the room, and then Sherlock says, tell me what you saw, and then, yep, that's right, but you didn't observe, right? You didn't really, in a sense, think about, right? So a lot of people see but they don't observe. That's just the way humans are, especially if you're distracted by there's this quote here this is from IASMP, multitasking, the single best way to screw up both jobs. Or one job or three jobs or whatever. Risk of a harmful medication error doubled when you're interrupted 4 times, tripled when you're interrupted 6 times. This is all known stuff. So the system should be set up such that this won't channel you into an adverse event. So this is just very disturbing that this has turned into a criminal conviction. But anyway, so let's talk about Glenn Funk. So Glenn Funk, this is Glenn Funk. He's the district attorney. He's also adjunct professor of law at Vanderbilt University. So he teaches trial advocacy. So that's why there was a conflict of interest. So basically, he's an employee of Vanderbilt in some sense. And so is Feng Li, I think, also. Oh, well, that's fine. But that's why he wasn't directly in charge, but he must have had some say in whether the case would be brought. So he's on the hook for that. Now, interestingly, this is from Funk, our district attorney. District Attorney Glenn Funk fights elder abuse. That I agree. That's true. But it's not a reason to bring criminal charges so that you have a poster. You say, look, we nailed this nurse. She criminally, she abused this impaired elder. No, I don't think she did at all. I mean, I don't want to get caught up in all that. That's, it's very subjective. There's nothing she did that was criminal, is all I'll say. So yes, changes could have been made, and yes, she should have done things differently, but not criminal. So this is interesting. Okay, so Britanni Flatt joined the team, Funk's team in 2019. I think the fall of 2019. And then her big thing seems to be this elder abuse. So that's why she went for the drug. I don't know why you go for the drug letter. She go for the carotid, not the drug letter. But anyway, that's why she went for the carotid. She had to get, getting a conviction for elder abuse. Man, that's a big deal. I don't know why they went after a nurse for a medication. I just think because they were so blinded by political gain and doing good, making the world a better place, whatever, that they just made the world worse because now people aren't going to come forward. Just very very frustrating. But I think that fighting elder abuse was such a big deal. I think made him much more likely to take the case and much more likely to be blinded to the evidence, the actual evidence. Why didn't the prosecution ask, hey, TBI, how much fluid's in that syringe? Oh, wait, by the time the FBI got it, it's almost 2 cc's left. Where'd it go? What's going on here? How can we trust that how much was given? If she only got 1 milligram, their own medical examiner said that's not enough to lethally paralyze the patient. And then we don't know what else could have killed her because no autopsy was done. Again, I don't think maliciously. It is interesting, the doctor who wrote up the first death report, again, maybe he should have dug a little deeper and said, hey, wait, what about this vecuronium stuff? Or risk management should have said, hey, somebody needs to chart this, get this in there. So I don't know whether it was just people didn't think much of it. They didn't see it as a criminal act. I don't know what went on there. But it's not like when the patient coded, they were like, whoa, what happened? What happened? So if she went to PET scan, so she got Valium before she went down. So at least they tried that. But there should have been a plan. Well, she's going to get this radioactive medicine. Let's make sure she feels comfortable. This is a failure on the doctor's part. The doctor in the ER saying, oh, just suck it up. I have a word that rhymes with suck. You. About what I would tell that doctor. No, you don't just suck it up. And no, doctors are responsible for the plan of care of the patient. And you don't send a claustrophobic patient down to get a radioactive isotope injected. Clock is ticking. Send down a distracted, fairly new help all nurse who has these other things to do. So basically says, hey, it's okay for her to not be monitored. Yeah, I don't think that was the right thing to do, but I get her thinking. She wasn't malevolent. She wasn't a bad nurse. She was just an inexperienced nurse. It's not criminal. She doesn't belong in prison. Doesn't belong all of this crap just so this joker right here could get reelected. That's how I look at it. The people at Davidson County are complicit in this too. So Glenn Funk, hopefully he's not district attorney in the fall. What he can do is, I think this would be great. He should take the Invisible Gorilla and teach a class at Vanderbilt Law. Read through the Invisible Gorilla. It's a great book. I've read it. It's a fantastic book. If you are interested in especially crime and psychology and trials, the Invisible Gorilla should be mandatory reading at every law school in the country. Mandatory reading. But it won't be, because the goal of a lawyer is to get a conviction or to get their patient off. Just like Gorgias thousands of years ago, Gorgias and Socrates, right? Gorgias, oh, you want me to show you're innocent? Pay me enough money, I can do that. You want me to show you're guilty? Oh, I can do that. Nope. That's what lawyers are, disciples of Gorgias. So anyway, and disciple of Gorgias is dog. So yeah, but not cynics. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. But anyway, so Glenn Funk should teach a class at Vanderbilt in the fall, reading through The Invisible Gorilla with the RaDonda Vaught case that his prosecutorial posse tried. I don't know if that's the proper verb. And use the RaDonda Vaught case as a case study, and then go through the illusion of attention, the memory. This is why I'm very skeptical that the radiology tech, I don't think it's malicious. I just think, if you haven't thought about something in a while and you've gotten new information, your brain will incorporate that new information into your memory. We can't trust our memories. Our brains do not work perfectly. Our memories are not like a snapshot of what happened. It's an interpretation. Every memory we have is an interpretation of what happened that your brain is trying to make sense of. So I just think all of these illusion of intention, memory, competence, knowledge, cause, potential, what is intuition, all of this would be great for Glenn Funk. And then Dr. Feng Li can be one of his teaching assistants, and Chad Jackson. I think that'd be great. I'll bring the popcorn. So, I had planned on, man, I'm at almost an hour and a half. So I think what I'll do is I will end here, and then I will just do a separate video, because it's gonna, this is, call it a half hour. And if I shoot my mouth off like I've done here, this could be an hour and a half. So I'm not going to make a 3-hour video. So what I'll do is I'll try and upload this. We'll see how that goes. And then maybe do a separate video where I go through and just talk about what Chad Jackson says and the stupid things he says in his closing argument. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Again, if you've listened this far, you're probably someone who's out running, and you don't want to stop, and your fingers sweaty, so you can't press your phone. I've had this happen where I've listened to things and you're just like stuck listening. So I thank you for the 1 or 2 people who have listened for this hour and a half. I feel like an opportunist, but it's this RaDonda Vaught thing just kind of fell into my lap. I happen to work in Davidson County. I happen to just listen, get interested in it, and a little skeptical from the get-go. I'll admit it sounded a little fishy to me, but in watching the trial, just seeing that image of the syringe, and just, why isn't anyone talking about that? Like, I don't understand. So that got thrown in my lap. But actually, for this time, I'm kind of off work for a little bit. I was actually going to start posting videos. I have a whole separate area of interest. My background's science, how we think, how the brain works, how we think about science, how we teach science, and then just more than that. So if you want to subscribe, if you're interested, like in the way I thought about this, there's plenty of other, videos I hope to make, not at all related to this. I just kind of got thrown into this, but I feel like an opportunist. But it's not that I'm trying to get viewers or subscribers or anything like that. It's just the way it worked, that the sentencing is this Friday, so I'm putting this video out now. But I also have some videos I'm going to hopefully post. They're a little more, well, they'll be kind of scatterbrained also, because I just have lots of ideas I'm trying to fit together. And what you do when you have ideas, you're trying to fit them together, is you share it publicly and you get criticism. That's how it works. That's what you're supposed to do. Anyway, thank y'all, and share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'd point down and point to different things, but even getting me to show up on here, I couldn't figure out how to do that. So let's at least hope I get this video up. And thank y'all. And hopefully Judge Smith sees the light and just, I don't know, hopefully she just dismisses. I don't know. This is just absurd that criminal charges were even brought. Never mind that a jury was persuaded by these, you know, manipulators of fact, fabricators of fact. So I think, actually, I mean, people can't bring syringes, but I think printing out a picture of the syringe, I think that's like the, so printing out picture, oh, not this. Ah, not that one, goodness gracious. So printing out pictures of this and just holding, I don't know. That's what I kind of, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I'm not, but I don't know if I'll be there. May 13th I work, but maybe I'll stay up. But you can't bring syringes, but the point is, it's incumbent on the prosecution to show how this image can reproduce by 5.4 mLs. And if not, then where'd the fluid go? And then how can we tell how much that the patient received? We can't. So charges never should have been brought. This is all just political theater, manipulation of fact, storytelling to get the end you want. And it's a disgrace to proper thinking and humanity. Anyway, on that note, hour and a half. Thanks much.